Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to Link Up Leaders, your direct link to leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. My name is Lisa Kinski. I'm your producer and co-host, and joined as always by Francois Jeffrey. Francois, good afternoon. How are you, dear? Feeling better?
Good afternoon. Yeah, much better. I'm going to try to talk a little bit softer. That way it doesn't echo as much.
Okay.
Because, we did clear out, back in Pittsburgh and cleared out the office room. And now it's completely bare bones, which unfortunately, beautiful 11-foot ceilings does not call for very good noise barriers or noise capture.
There's no absorbency, I guess you can say. The sound waves. Yeah.
How about you? How are you?
I'm doing good. Fun fact, I actually turned on the AC for the first time ever since moving into this office, because it is 80, this is 81. My car said 84. But I just popped home and back really quick, and it got a little toasty in here. So I actually have my AC on. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm constantly cold. I almost always, I was running my personal heater or my space heater in this office up until last week. I call my office my air fryer. Jack calls me a lizard woman. It is warm. It does get warm, but that's how I'm comfortable. But like I said, once it gets hot outside, once it's hot and sunshiny, I'm pretty much always in a good mood. I'm an outside plant. I've told you guys this before. I'm a summer plant. I need all the heat and sunshine that I can possibly get.
And you got some this weekend. Earth Day. We did a little event. How was it?
Yes, it was great. So we've talked about it a little bit before on the show, but Noviland has launched an e-commerce platform called Modcart and is currently exclusively serving the Metro Atlanta area. And so part of what we want to do is really get involved in the community. And we're going to be doing that through monthly, community service activities or, just outreach kind of things. And I found a really cool opportunity through a place called the Wild Center that runs a few gardens and I think gardens is just the appropriate term for it. But we volunteered at this place called the Sugar Creek Garden. They grow a lot of medicinal herbs, which was really cool. He was walking us through. He's like, okay, and this line is St. John's wort. It treats anxiety. And I was just pluck one and put it in my purse. No. But he was telling us, and he was and this is echinacea and this is, whatever. So it was really, really cool. A couple of members of the team came out. So it was fun. It was good.
Good.
We
good.
Had a little...
You got to cater to your Earth Warrior persona.
Yes. I am using my position in the business to push my personal agenda and getting other people involved. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, it's for a good cause.
I agree. Well, today we are speaking with the leader because it just occurred to me. We call this show Link Up Leaders, and we have conversations with leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. And then I never introduced them as our leader of the day. And that's a missed branding opportunity that I'm just now finding at episode 100 and whatever. I should know our account better too, like Ryan Kramer does. But it's why don't I do that? So our leader of the day is Tyler Gregg. He's the director of operations at Amped. And I was actually introduced to their team at Prosper, funny enough, through Amy Weiss. It never ends. Through Amy Weiss. And we actually have her on the show later today. And he was having some technical difficulty just before the show. Oh no, it looks like he's back. Okay, great. I was worried. Let's go on ahead and bring him on. Tyler, welcome to the show. I saw it was muted and there was no camera. I was like, oh God, we lost him.
No, just waiting for my intro as the leader of the day, but super excited to be here with y'all.
Awesome. Great to have you. And where are you calling in from again? I can't remember.
I am up here in Seattle. So you were saying something about AC. I don't even know what that word means here in Seattle. We do not have that up here.
Close enough to the Amazon HQ, I'm guessing.
Oh, yes. I'm actually in Bellevue. Our headquarters is downtown Seattle, which is a few blocks away from Amazon's original HQ. And I actually am working from home right now in Bellevue. And there are 3 about 45-story buildings just wrapping up right now that I think are opening here pretty soon. Then they're all Amazon, and they're complete. They have my building, my apartment complex, completely surrounded. So it's interesting.
It'll be interesting to see if they try to like buy that out as housing for Amazon employees, because that's what like the universities down here do. Is they're like, all right, we've run out of room for the students. We'd like to buy this complex. That's what Kennesaw does, at least. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming.
I wouldn't be surprised. We're actually mainly because of Amazon, but Bellevue, there's I think a Wall Street Journal article on it. It's the most expensive real estate in America, more expensive than Manhattan right now. Our rentals went up 28% in the last year. And there's a little bit of an asterisk to that number. It's a shocking number, but we have more space here than Manhattan. Obviously Manhattan is, 400 or 500 square foot apartments at $3,000 a month. Here it's, more like 700 or 800 square foot apartments for $3,000 a month. So there's more room, but everything here is bigger. So it's been an interesting last year living over here, to say the least.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder where Atlanta falls into that then, because I follow.
I don't think anywhere near.
I
don't even think of the top 20.
I follow an Instagram account called Smart City Atlanta, and they do, because I got into it for some sort of giveaway nonsense, and they feature different apartments that are available to rent right now. And there are 565 square foot studio apartments for over $3,000 a month to rent right now. Yes. Oh, it is getting outrageous. So I think we're getting up there, man. Like I remember a couple of years ago, the rent, difference between here and New York was significant. And I don't think that's, in certain parts, that's not the case anymore. Like we'll
have to look it up after.
Outrageous. Yes, we will.
Or someone will be fact checking us while we go too. So
I hope so. I hope most people do, actually.
I hope so. Yeah.
I know. I would love to get somebody in the comments, because we mention things offhandedly all the time that we have to go back and check later, to be honest. Or I'm like Googling I want somebody to just like watch the live stream and be like, Atlanta is number 7. It's like, thank you so much. Like I want an involved audience, but we don't go live at the same time every week. So it's kind of hard to create that. But you guys are always welcome to email me about what I'm wrong at lisa@noviland.com. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, just let us know a little bit about Amped and then about your personal background as well.
Sure. Yeah. So Amped is a technology company. We've been around for about 5 or 6 years now. And we actually started by building a data science engine for Google Analytics data, specifically designed for e-commerce companies, D2C type websites. And as we built out that data science engine, a lot of our customers, larger enterprise D2C folks, were asking us to point that analysis engine at their Google Ads data. Google Ads data is a little bit closer to the revenue. It's directly impactful on ROI and all that. And so we started building the data science engine to not only incorporate Google Analytics, but also Google Ads. And as we did that and started seeing really great results with it, we got onto Google themselves radar. And so Google started working with us to incorporate our technology into their platform, not directly into their platform, but to help their customers leverage their platform. And one of the things that they obviously wanted was for us to go more down market, to not only help the sellers that are spending millions of dollars, but to help folks that have never spent on Google Ads before get started using our technology, so then they could spend more on Google Ads. And that's really what put us into this unique spot to where we started taking this analysis engine that we've been building for 5 or 6 years and pointing it towards Amazon and helping Amazon sellers who a lot of them hadn't spent on Google Ads before. And so as we started sending traffic into Amazon, that got us onto Amazon's radar. And so the Amazon attribution team teamed up with us to say, okay, you guys are Google Ads experts. You guys can build campaigns, you can optimize campaigns. Well, here's access to our API, so you can actually implement tagging. And so then that put us in this really interesting spot to where we're the first company ever to start automatically setting up Google Ad campaigns with full keyword level attribution to help Amazon sellers have full visibility into how their Google Ads are performing and converting within Amazon. And so we actually rolled that out last August. So it hasn't even been a year yet. And it's been pretty crazy last several months as Amazon sellers are really starting to adopt external traffic I know a lot of folks are talking about it, and there's definitely this big impact on ranking. But to be able to feed the Amazon ranking algorithm, the external traffic that Amazon wants, but to also give sellers the ROI visibility, and so they can see exactly how much impact they're having with this new channel. It's been a really cool spot, really cool kind of last 9 months. And we've been building the Amazon side for longer. We went through alpha, beta testing and all that, but officially live in the market for about 9 months now.
Wow. And how did you get involved in everything?
Yeah. So my background's in management consulting, and I actually started with Amped. We were actually Metric Story at the time, the story of your metrics. So we're a data company, and they were one of my clients. And as they raised their kind of first rounds of fundings, we're kind of starting to build out the technology. I joined them very early on. So I've been here for over 5 years now, of the about 5 to 6 years of kind of the company's been around. So I've been through a lot with the company, and really seeing a lot of the adjustments from the technology standpoint, but then also from the customer base as well. You know, we used to service large enterprise D2C companies, and more recently, we've been working with a lot of, you know, SMBs, entrepreneurs, Amazon sellers. And I've enjoyed working with both sides, but we've had a ton of fun working with the Amazon sellers. They're entrepreneurs, they're passionate, they're creative, and they're risk takers too, which is always fun to see. You know, we're technology builders, so we're entrepreneurs. We are risk takers in ourselves, you know, carving out new industries. So it's always a ton of fun to work with Amazon sellers, because it's just a different mindset of how they approach business, how they approach life too.
I was going to ask what you prefer, working with the enterprise or the entrepreneurs, but you said you have a lot of fun, so we'll leave it at that. We won't, start a war.
Well, quick question, actually. In this journey, why do you think over the past 5 years that Amazon sellers haven't really been implementing, this external traffic until now?
Yeah. So the most clear one is because Amazon attribution is so new. Amazon attribution's been around for about 2 years now, but it's still in beta. Like, if you go to Amazon attribution website, it still has that beta signal in there. And on top of which, you have to manually create tags. And so the manually creating tags is just time intensive. You have to know your way around Amazon attribution to create the right tag. You then have to know your way around Google Ads to implement the tags in the right way. And the way Amazon attribution is set up is you have to create an individual tag for every single Google keyword. So it's crazy time intensive. So a lot of the bigger sellers have done it because they hire someone and they just say, I don't care if this takes 100 hours a week. Like, we know this works. We're going to do that. But a lot of the smaller sellers or middle-sized sellers, they don't have that capacity. They don't have the ability to create those individual tags. So they haven't been able to adopt this. What's so interesting is when we talk to sellers, you have two different sides. You have sellers that come in and be like, oh, I've been doing Google Ads for years. I just haven't really been tracking it, but I know it works. I can see it in my bottom line. I just don't know exactly how well it works. And they use a technology like Amped, and now they have that visibility. And then we talk to the other half of our customers who are like, oh, I've never been able to do this before. I can't invest in a channel that I'm not 100% sure is working, so I've never been able to do it. So that's the two different types of customers that we have. But then also, the answer to your question of why haven't been people doing it, it's just been so hard to track. And until Amped came out with this technology that does the automated attribution tracking. The second component of it too is because Amped has 5 to 6 years of working with Google technology, we know Google Ads inside and out. It's not enough to just create a pixel, create a tag, and put it onto a campaign and see if it works or doesn't. You have to set up the campaign in the right way. You have to optimize the campaign in the right way. And if you're not doing that, you're going to get bad results. So it's both a combination of not having to be able to track the data the right way, but also a lot of Amazon sellers don't have the Google Ads expertise to really improve and optimize campaigns.
Well, and Google Ads is its own beast. Like, it's hard to get a handle on top of everything you have to know for Amazon just to run your business. It's a fire hose of information, as they say. But before we move forward, can you give us just a really basic information of what a tag is? Just because
Sure.
I think we'd like to maybe walk through the process of the integration of it. And I just want to be sure that everybody is up to date on the terms before we get down like a rabbit hole or like a journey.
Everybody meaning us.
Everybody meaning Francois, and I don't know what that means.
So I'll try to say this as simply as possible. A tag allows you to put that onto a Google campaign. And then when someone clicks on your Google ad, that tag allows you to see visibility on if they purchased after clicking your campaign. So it allows for attribution. So you can say someone clicked this campaign and they purchased my product, or they clicked the campaign and they did not purchase the product. So it provides that conversion data that you need in order to improve your campaigns. One of the issues with Amazon and Google is, for privacy reasons, they can't really share data. They're not allowed to really give a lot of data back and forth. There's simple things you can do: create the tag in Amazon, put it on Google. They can share that data, but they can't go any deeper. You can't take Amazon data and pump it back into Google to improve Google's campaigns. And so what happens there is, we see this all the time, to where Google Ads, you mentioned, is a beast in itself. Google Ads is set up for D2C stores. So if you're doing a Google campaign to your D2C branded store, there's so much data that Google has access to, because they can see how that traffic interacts with that website, a Shopify website, BigCommerce website, whatever it is. On Amazon, Google has no visibility into if that traffic is converting, if they're bouncing. All Google can see is if they click the ad or not. And so when we think about Google Ads and how big of a beast it is, it's a mess, to be honest with you. We love Google; they're a great partner, but it's just not set up for Amazon. Mm-hmm. It's just not set up to send that traffic to Amazon. And so when I think about creating these tags and creating these pixels and putting it on campaigns, that's only a small part of being successful. You have to really know, how do you improve this campaign over time? Because Google can't do it for you. You can't turn on an automated Google campaign and have it work, because they can't see if that traffic's converting or whatnot.
And D2C, of course, meaning direct to consumer, which would be,
correct,
like you said, a Shopify site. So there's like a shefit.com as opposed to going Amazon and then going to the Shefit, store, which doesn't exist. Those are exclusively D2C. So that was probably a bad example. Nike might be a better one, or Under Armour, something of that nature. So what are, I guess, kind of walk us through the process. How would somebody get started then kind of using their Google Ads to direct traffic to their Amazon store if there's already such difficulty getting the two to talk to each other?
Right. So if they were to do it manually, which is always an option, they would create a Google Ads account. They go to ads.google.com and create an ads account. And then they would go into their Amazon ads account, and there's an attribution section in Amazon ads, and they would create a tag in Amazon. They would then take that tag and go into Google Ads and create a Google ad campaign targeting their Amazon product listing. And they would put that tag in the URL inside that Google ad campaign. Then they would turn that campaign on at whatever budget they want, and they would monitor it by looking at impressions, clicks, and cost in Google Ads console. And then they would go into Amazon and find that tag and look at conversions and revenue in Amazon, probably then export both data sets and try to stitch it together into Excel. Then they would look at to see, is this converting? With Amped, our technology is set up to where it's one click easy. That whole process I just described is done for you. And we provide keyword level data. The attribution tag that's manually created, that's only giving you campaign level data. But with Google Ads, similar to Amazon ads, you create the campaign, and under that campaign is 20, 30, 40 different keywords. Those keywords are the vital component of a successful Google ad campaign. You have to know which ones work. You have to know which ones don't work. And we see it in the data all the time, to where if you're selling, I always say salt and pepper shakers because it's just clear. Everyone knows what a salt and pepper shaker does. But if you're advertising a salt and pepper shaker, you have a salt and pepper shaker campaign, the keywords that you're investing in are glass salt and pepper shaker, electric salt and pepper shaker, small salt and pepper shaker. Of those three that I just described, two of those are probably just going to soak up your money and never convert. One of them might, and it might convert very efficiently. So you have to have this visibility under what keywords work in order to make that campaign profitable. We see it all the time too, is, first 1 or 2 months, you're going to have a high ACoS, just like Amazon ads. You're buying data. It's your first time exploring a channel. you have to have the details of what's working and, more importantly, what isn't working to make sure that you can improve the campaigns over time and turn Google into a profitable channel.
And do you see them using this for both their Amazon listings as well as their D2C sites?
Many do. D2C sites are tricky, of course. We have a lot of experience, obviously, with D2C. There's a lot of nuances that go into successfully converting someone from Google to your D2C store. Whereas Amazon, it's the world's best converting website, right? People go to Amazon, they know it's Amazon, they've got their 2-day shipping, their credit card saved. That conversion funnel is perfectly optimized, right? And when you send traffic there, it converts a lot better than if you send it to a D2C store. So we have plenty of customers, that have an established D2C store. They have their conversion funnels all set up, and you can send it to both and see which converts better, where you have better margins and all that. We do know, though, that it takes quite a bit of work to send the traffic to a Shopify site, a BigCommerce site, because you have to optimize it for conversions. You have to set up that conversion funnel. You have to get your remarketing going. You have to get your email captures and all that stuff. Whereas Amazon's done all that work for you. You just send traffic there, optimize your campaign, but you don't have to optimize your page that much.
Got it. Yeah. And the main reason that I ask is because I know there is this new topic of conversation of owning the data, right? And when you have your own D2C site, typically capturing that email and understanding who your audience is might help you optimize your future campaigns even.
Yeah.
But so moving towards Amazon, one thing that you just mentioned there is remarketing. How does remarketing play into all of this with your Google ads leading into your Amazon listings?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to answer that first part, though, real quick, just before we move on from it, is we get that question all the time of, well, like, if I send traffic to my Shopify store, I can own the customer, I can collect their email, I can do all that stuff. And you also have better margins, right? So we get that question all the time. And what I always like to say is, if you can get keywords and campaigns going to your D2C store that convert efficiently, and you have your website set up for conversions, that's awesome. Like 100% do that. But then take the keywords that you aren't able to convert on your D2C store and try those on Amazon, because you're going to see better conversion rates. And obviously every conversion and just feeding the Amazon ranking algorithm has this flywheel effect. So if you are successfully advertising your D2C store, I'm sure there's keywords that you've tried that just don't convert for whatever reason, but are descriptive of your product. Send those to Amazon. See if those convert, and see if you can get them converting at an efficient rate within the Amazon marketplace. And the other question here, Francois, was following up on that. What was the question that you wanted to go over after that?
Yeah, so you touched on, or we sort of skipped over remarketing, and remarketing is such a vital part in advertising. I just wanted to see how that played in with Google ads going into Amazon listings.
Yeah, so remarketing is an interesting component on Amazon. There isn't much you can do from a remarketing standpoint, since you can't like you don't own the domain, right? But what we actually see, which is really interesting, is when you bring in traffic to a product listing, that can kickstart Amazon's remarketing engine to where it's an Amazon customer. Amazon wants that customer that came to the website. They want that person to buy that product, right? So what happens here is you can do DSP, you can do those kind of things on Amazon domains, but Amazon also kickstarts their own remarketing budget. They spend, I think, over $6 billion on Google ads every year. It's a crazy number. I know they brought it back a couple of years ago during COVID, kind of brought it back down, but they spend a lot on Google. And so you bring in traffic, and then now Amazon remarkets them as they go across the other websites and go across the web, because Amazon wants to bring that customer back in. They saw that customer had interest in your product. So now Amazon's trying to bring them back into your product as well. So what happens is we see when we feed the Amazon ranking algorithm, we call it this halo impact, to where you could send traffic in to a product listing. You could have a low conversion rate. You might not have a great return on ad spend or ACoS, but your total sales increases. We see this time and time again. Part of it is the weight that Amazon gives to external traffic. As they see a seller bringing in external traffic, they reward that person, saying, thank you for bringing in customers to our marketplace, keep doing that. But the other component is, as you bring in a customer to your listing and then they leave, but then they see a remarketing ad from Amazon that Amazon pays for, that overrides the pixel that you had on your campaign. So they still buy your product, but you just don't get direct credit from it for your Google ad campaign. So we see that remarketing kind of, you kickstart the Amazon remarketing engine, and you can kind of, I don't want to say piggyback off it, but you can get a lot of good sales without having to actually pay twice for that traffic.
Yeah, and I guess that's we're definitely trying to take it one step at a time with even just cleaning up this first level of attribution, and I'm guessing that's a second level of, we need to get there eventually.
Yeah, that's a second level, and in D2C it's called like pipeline marketing, and there's a bunch of different terms, multi-touch marketing. And Google actually, if you're doing D2C campaigns, they have ways to try to see assisted clicks and all that stuff, as opposed to just the standard first click or last click attribution models. You don't quite have that in Amazon quite yet, but that will be down the road. I'm quite sure of it, because the way we think about it is it's just a few years behind Google, right? Like Google monetized ads, Amazon monetized ads a couple of years later, right? More than a couple of years later, of course. But that's pipeline marketing, multi-touch attribution, assisted clicks, all that. It's not quite there yet, but I'm sure that will be coming down the road.
Gosh, that I got so confused even just in the initial discussion, just because there's so many steps to it, and I feel like there's so many places that you can like go wrong. Like you said, people are pouring money into keywords that don't work, just because they don't know what's actually converting. What are some of the other missteps that these Amazon business owners specifically can make when trying to use Google Ads to direct traffic to their Amazon store or listing?
So there's a lot of missteps, unfortunately, and it just comes back to Google, first off, being a huge beast, but it's also set up for D2C stores. It's also one size fits all, right? Google doesn't know the difference between your sandals and a salt and pepper shaker and all that stuff. But furthermore, it doesn't really understand the difference between different industries and different segments and all that when advertising on Google. What I like to think about Amped is, because of our domain expertise in Google Ads, but also e-commerce, and then now also Amazon, we've created the best path to creating an Google to Amazon campaign and optimize that campaign with the best practices for Google Ads for Amazon. What happens too is Google, they're trying to push automation, and it's tough, because I see it happen in campaigns to where there's two things that Google does. One, they try to push all their automation, and they have what's called, not to get too technical here, but they have what's called a bidding strategy called maximize for conversions.
Okay.
And inside Google Ads, they will push you notifications, push you emails to our sellers that say, hey, you should switch this over to maximize for conversions, your bidding strategy. Problem is, Google doesn't know that that traffic's going to Amazon, and Google can't see if it converts. Only Amped is able to see if that traffic converts. And so those are some of the pitfalls to where, if you listen to Google, if you try to do this in Google yourself, you get these bad recommendations that are good recommendations if you're a D2C seller, but bad recommendations if you're an Amazon seller.
Okay.
And so these automated, and sometimes Google will automatically apply them to your campaigns too. So you need Amp to kind of get in the middle there and say, don't listen to Google on these kind of things, because these are bad, generic, one size fits all recommendations. Listen to Amped, because we are the best guided path to creating a Google to Amazon campaign, factoring in all the nuances that you have to factor into if you want to be successful in marketing your Amazon products on Google.
So they can find those key metrics like the conversions, and the clicks and everything on Amp. They centralize all of those metrics from Google and Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah. So we stitch it all together into our platform. So it's one platform, one application, if you will, and the Google data is pulled in and the Amazon's data is pulled in and then stitched back together. So a seller sees it all in one place.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, especially if Google can't read that there are conversions, but you can you tell Google that a certain click actually did land a conversion?
Nope. We cannot feed any data back into Google. Technically, we can. Technically, it's possible to do, but it's against Amazon's terms of service. And since we're Amazon's premier attribution partner, we We avoid anything gray area, because that partnership obviously means a lot to us.
Sure.
And they're helping us build out the platform and whatnot. But yeah, we can't unfortunately feed that data back into Google. If we could, you could then leverage some of Google's smart technology and automation, but you can't do it. So it actually provides a great opportunity as we build our technology, because since no one can just piggyback off Google, you have to build it yourself. And since we've been building for 5 or 6 years, we're pretty well established to have a lot of that data science and that analysis engine pumped into our Google to Amazon campaigns.
Okay. But you're able, so you can't feed any information directly back to Google, but back to what you said about sometimes Amazon does its own Google Ads retargeting. Are you able to tell the Amazon seller if their ad made the conversion or if Amazon's remarketing ad made the conversion? You're able to tell them that.
We are able to tell them if their campaign that they created through the AMP system generated a conversion.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
We don't have visibility into Amazon's remarketing and how much volume or conversions or the conversion rates, but we can show you that if you create a campaign through AMP, someone searched for that product on Google, they found your campaign, they came into your product listing or your Amazon storefront and they bought your product, we can show you exactly what keyword they searched on Google. So you can then double down on that and spend more and try to get more customers searching for your products in that way.
Okay, understood. And so on the topic of keywords then, does AMP provide any kind of guidance on what keywords to target, or do you guys have any recommended sources to get that? Because everybody wants to hit the right ones, right? I mean,
right.
100%.
Yeah, everyone wants to hit the right ones. I always caution, when doing Google ads, there's a learning phase. You have to test different keywords. You have to understand what's work and what doesn't. It's not as simple as just grabbing your keywords that work on Amazon and plugging them into Google, because people search the two platforms differently. This is something where it really differentiates what AMP does, is because we have so much history of Google ads and we've been building for 5 or 6 years this technology. When you create your campaign through AMP, we are able to provide recommendations on what keywords we think you should invest in. And the way we do this is a sophisticated setup between reading the product listing page, understanding how people search for a product like that on Google, combining it with Google search data to then surface, hey, we know it's product X. These are the 3 to 4 or 5 or 6 or however many keywords we think are appropriate for your product. This is a tricky part, and a lot of it we do with the technology, but a lot of it we do on training. And the training part, I think, is a really big piece to being successful on Google, is learning how people are searching for your products on Google versus on Amazon. Going back to that salt and pepper shaker concept or idea or product, is you could probably get some conversions, on Amazon for like kitchen supplies or countertop things for my kitchen. People could search that on Amazon. They'll scroll through the pictures and go, actually, I do need a salt and pepper shaker, and they'll buy it. Whereas on Google, like, you can't do that, right? Like, they need to be a lot more descriptive of what they want, so you can give them the right ad at the right time. And so on Google, you have to be very product specific. Salt and pepper shaker electric, or wooden salt and pepper shaker, like keywords that describe specifically your product. Otherwise, you're just going to be blowing your money on what we call top of the funnel, non-product specific intent to purchase keywords. So a lot of that we do with technology to help you find those ones, but then we also train you how to think about Google, because it is very different than Amazon.
Oh yeah, I mean, because if I type in kitchen gifts under 25 on Amazon, I'm just going to get products. If I type in kitchen gifts under 25 on Google, I'm going to get a blog written by every mother that starts with when I was 13. Okay, gosh, I had another question in there and I just totally threw myself off with so with regard to the keywords, and I guess we should clarify here, the AMP service is servicing exclusively like Amazon.com and like US based D2C brands and stuff like that, not directing Google ads to traffic in other. I don't think my question is making sense. Is it an international solution?
Yeah, I think I get the question. So AMP works worldwide. For the attribution data, we are limited to the markets that Amazon attribution is available. So right now that's North America, Europe, and I believe they're coming out with Japan and Mexico here pretty soon as additional attribution market. If you want to use AMP or Google Ads and track to any geo in the world, you can do that. Easy to do. It's just if you want that keyword level attribution data, you need to be selling into North America or Europe right now.
Okay, gotcha. And with the North American keyword attribution, does that go for the keywords in other languages as well? Because we just had a discussion with Vanessa Hung on Friday about, you know, there's such a large Hispanic community that isn't being catered to, I guess would be the right term. And there are so many keywords that you can do in Spanish that in each of the dialects of Spanish as well that aren't being targeted, and you're missing in like a huge, huge market. So is that something that can be done through AMPed as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So it's a difficult one to answer, to be perfectly honest with you. One that comes to mind is just answering it with an example. Is we have obviously in Europe where attribution is available, you have Germany. Germany is a huge market, and most folks in Germany speak German, right? And Amazon I think it's .de for Germany, I think is obviously the whole website is in German. So in those situations, when our German sellers use AMP, they create their Google ads using German keywords and German ad copy. So when someone searches for something in German, they get an ad in German and they go to a German Amazon website, right? All of those are lined up. Now in the US, you know, I think this may have been where your question was going. If you wanted to target Spanish speaking customers in Washington State, for example, we're not really set up to do that. The way it's viewed really, and the way I think about it is the majority of well, first off, if you're searching for, if you're going to buy something on Amazon in Washington State, it's most likely you have it set up for English, right? So it's an English ad, English keywords for an English website. Obviously, it gets more complicated if you think about states that have higher populations of Spanish-speaking folks. And that could potentially be something we do down the road. But for right now, the way we view about it is whatever website the default Amazon is set for, whatever language that is in, that's what you should build your ads for.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, she was saying it was something ridiculous, like not ridiculous, just out. It's a big number, like 70 million Spanish-speaking Americans that are being underserved in the U.S. currently. So it's a sizable population. And so when it comes to Spanish-speaking Spanish people, is just one piece of a demographic. Can you set up different demographics within AMPed?
Not within AMPed, but if you know your way around Google, that is one of the finer tweaks that you could do. We not to talk too much about AMPed because this is really about Google. One of the things that we can do in our done for you service is we can do that. We go into Google Ads and we set up demographics to do so. The more obvious demographics are like, you know, male versus female, age ranges, and those kind of things. But if there's certain nuances about your product that you really want to be finely targeted to, you can definitely leverage some of that demographic data that Google Ads does provide. It gets more sophisticated. We don't recommend that out of the gates, but if you do have that background in Google Ads and you do understand that, hey, like females will not buy this product, so I don't want to ever show this ad to it. Like, yes, you can incorporate that into the campaign, but for the most part, what we see is you get down to the keywords, and the keywords really determine who the buyer is, right? If someone's searching, because it's intent based, you can dive into those keywords and eliminate a lot of people that would not, like, these aren't retargeting ads or Facebook ads where you're sending it to different populations. What they're searching for on Google indicates what they want. If you can leverage that data, find the right keywords with the right ad copy, you don't have to do some of that demo data that you would otherwise have to do on social media or billboards where you're like pushing stuff in front of people.
Yeah, I think that's where our brain goes to a lot of the times is the Facebook ads where it's like, okay, women, you know, ages 27 with a dog in a metro area does yoga, you know, like just super hyper specific. So I think that's where I knew where you were going with that question, Francois, because I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and there are, I'm sure if someone's listening that's a Google Ads person, they might be sitting there going, you have to do these demo data, you have to do this, you have to do that. In traditional D2C, probably, like you would probably want to really dig in on that front. What's great about Amazon is the conversion rates are so great usually that you, as long as you get very focused on the keywords and the ad copy to qualify, you can have pretty good results. Now, if you really want to fine tune, disregard what I said, but we're talking 95.5%. You know, that last, like those tiny fine tune things are like the very small things that if you want to do and you know how to do, you can, but we've seen you don't really have to do as much of it because the intent around the keywords that AMP recommends.
And you could always set up a separate campaign to do that and just experiment, see if it does have a higher conversion rate potentially on you know what you think you know, which is great. But when it comes to, you mentioned the halo effect earlier, and I've heard it a few times before. What is this? Can you walk us through sort of a roadmap of how you even get there? Like, how long does it take to set up and aggregate a lot of this data and fine tune your campaign in order to see this halo effect, you know, take place?
Absolutely. So it's tricky. You know, it's Amazon, right? It's black box. The A9, A10, whatever they're calling it these days, is fully black boxed. The way we think about it and the way we teach it is you want to set up your campaigns and run it for a month or two, and then look at the time period of total sales from beforehand compared to the time sales after of running it for a month or two. Now, the tricky part here is it is an experiment, right? Like, think back to our middle school science classes of when you run an experiment, you change one variable at a time, right? So what you want to try to do to really measure that impact is try to find a time to where there isn't going to be a lot of changes in like your supply chain or your marketing initiatives or throwing a coupon on your product, and just let things be steady, and then try Google Ads for a month or two, and then look at total sales to see how much did you get that stair step where you here and then you jumped up, now you're here on a total sales on a month-over-month basis. It is tricky, right? Because there's a lot of factors that are going into your ranking. There's a lot of factors that are going into your sales. A competitor changes something and all that side. But we've just seen time and time again to where people will be doing 40 sales a day. They'll turn on Google Ads and all of a sudden they're doing 70 or 80 sales per day. And they're looking around going, I didn't change much. I just started doing Google Ads. It does make sense from a logic perspective, though, of, you know, Amazon is, they're trying to win this war with Shopify and Walmart, right? To where there's about 40% of product searches still start on Google. I mean, what if 5 years from now, Amazon won that and 100% of product searches start on Amazon? Where's Shopify going to get their customers from? Mm-hmm. And we know that Amazon is willing to run at a loss for many, many years if they can be ahead of you guys in 5 or 10 years, right? So from a logic perspective, it makes sense. And then when you think about the brand referral bonus, like Amazon's actually paying cash for their sellers to bring in external traffic. So for them to provide ranking benefits and ranking bonuses is a pretty small give, considering they're parting way with cash and the 10% brand referral bonus for every conversion that comes in from external traffic. So that's what we really teach in terms of how to look at it, how to evaluate it. It just happens way too often for us to not point to that and say, hey, look at that. Because if you don't look at that, you might think, oh, my ACoS isn't great, I can't keep investing in this. And then you pull it off and your sales start slumping. So that's what we always try to recommend. On our side is we are actually trying to reverse engineer it so we can calculate that halo impact. It's tricky because our data science team is they want to be very accurate, very specific because they're data scientists. And so we're working really hard to try to actually be able to quantify that number and allow sellers to see the whole ROI of external traffic. The way we think about it is different than on Amazon, right? But when you spend on Google Ads, the ROI of that is the sum of the ACoS that you see, plus the 10% back from the brand referral bonus, plus the halo impact. So we can obviously calculate ACoS and your 10% back. But if we could calculate the halo impact for our sellers as well, now you can get a very clear picture of the complete ROI. If you look at any one of those three by themselves, it's probably not going to be an incredible investment. It could be, but it probably won't be. But when you look at the sum of them together, that starts to be a pretty good channel, pretty good marketing channel for sellers to tap into.
And when you're sort of starting to onboard new, let's say clients even, is there a projected budget as opposed to their Amazon advertising when they're coming on to Google Ads?
Yeah, what we recommend is we recommend about $15 per campaign that you create and to start. And the reason we recommend that is we don't want sellers coming in and saying, oh, I sell 1,000 products, I'm just gonna do $15 a day for every product. Like we say, hey, start with 4 or 5 campaigns at smaller budgets, dip your toes into the water, test the water, collect the data that you need in order to cut back in the right areas and double down on the right areas. And then you can start scaling. And so what we recommend is about $15 a day per product or per campaign. And then for 30 to 45 days, first 30 or 45 days, that's going to give you enough data to understand what doesn't work, cut that out, and what does work, double down. And then from there, you can start to scale up. You can start to increase your budgets and really start ramping up. But it kills me when I see someone come in, they say, oh, I've got a great product. It's got 10,000 reviews. I'm just going to throw, $20,000 at Google Ads. And it's like, slow down. Like, we love the enthusiasm. We love the enthusiasm. We'll get you there for sure, but you need to do it in the right way. You need to do it in a systematic way so you don't just waste the money. And you have to learn what keywords work. They're going to be different keywords than your Amazon campaigns, most likely. So you're starting over. It's a totally new channel. So you want to test, you want to experiment, and then you want to start scaling.
Do you often have clients come in on the other side of the spectrum too that say, oh, I tried Google Ads before and it didn't work. And you're like, well, how long did you try it for? We ran it for like a week and it didn't work. It's like, you didn't give it time.
Yep. So, oh yeah. So we actually, we've done a few things to try to do our best to train folks. And I think that's something that is really unique about what AMP does is, yes, we're giving you the data, but we have so much domain expertise around what it takes to be successful in Google Ads because we've been building Google Ads technology for 6 years. And what we actually offer is a 30-day money-back guarantee if you attend our 3-part onboarding training. And as long as you go through those 3-part trainings, and we host them live every single week, you are going to have a chance of really being successful. And what we saw at the beginning when we launched was people would start exactly as you said, of a week or two in, they'd say, hey, like, I want to cancel. I'm not seeing the results I want. And so we directly talk through in these trainings what to look for, when to look for it, and how to look for it, and how to evaluate the impact. And now a lot of people have a lot more success because they follow the right steps. We're teaching them the importance of what to look for and when to look for it. So you're 100% right in terms of some people are too enthusiastic, some people don't understand, and a lot of it just comes down to expectation setting. And I think we do a pretty good job. I'm biased. I host those onboarding sessions, but from looking at retention rates and customer success numbers, it's very clear that the folks that attend those 3 training sessions, they have a lot better results than folks that either think they know what they're doing or that those rules don't apply to them.
Yeah, they can just throw money at it. I love your marketing budget and I love the enthusiasm, but hold on, let's do it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you hosting these trainings? Are they on like a I don't really want to say exclusive, but like a client Facebook group, or are you going live through Zoom, through like a webinar style?
Yeah, we do webinar style. So we host it and then we do live Q&A. It's for all of our customers. So when you sign up with Amped, there's a training tab where you can sign up for them, but then we also send invites out over email. And we design, it's a 3-part design for week 1, 2, and 3 or 4. And each session is specifically designed for what your campaigns should look like and what adjustments you should be making on week 1, week 2, or that 3 or 4 weeks worth of data, because we're collecting data, right? The changes and optimizations you make in week 1, very different than the changes and optimizations you should be making in week 3 or 4.
Great point. And then are there I don't think so, because especially with the duration that you're talking about running these campaigns, but are there any features of the Google Ads that are, I guess, volume specific? Like you have to get X amount of traffic to get this data point or anything of that nature, or is it pretty open book with what is available?
It's an interesting question. There's two parts to the answers. I would say on the Google side, like you have to pick keywords that have search volume, right? You can't just put in whatever keywords you want. If people don't search for it on Google, you won't show up for it.
Mhm.
We see that sometimes to where I think a lot of Amazon sellers have picked up on this, something we teach too, and something that our system looks for, but Amazon related keywords on Google, salt and pepper shaker, Amazon. People are too lazy to go to Amazon.com and then search salt and pepper shaker. So they just go to Google and say salt and pepper shaker, Amazon. Those keywords are awesome. Like if you're a seller, you want to find those keywords, but you have to make sure there's enough volume. Amped helps you understand if there is enough search volume to make it worthwhile to invest in it. But you can't just take your keyword like, I don't know, like yellow pen with writing on it, Amazon, right? Like you can't just make up a keyword. You have to be reliant on the search volume. The other side of it is Amazon, and how much data, how much traffic do you need to feed into the Amazon ranking algorithm before you start seeing the halo impact? We usually don't see it in like the first week or the second week, but as you're consistently feeding it in, that's when we start to see the impact. There's a few factors that we're starting to identify. We never recommend flooding a page. So if you have $1,000 to spend, spread that over a few months. Don't just spend it in 2 days and think you're going to spike your rank, because you might, but then you're going to fall off very quickly. You have to keep it rolling. I think Amy Wees actually talks about that, of sticking the landing, as I think what she talks about it as. And so that's something that we teach as well, is it's consistency. The second side of it too is, you know, if you have a product that you've been selling for 10 years on Amazon, it has 20,000 reviews, and you put, you know, 20 new clicks per day from Google, proportionally, that's not probably going to make that big of a difference. But if it's a new product, it's a product launch, and you're getting 100 clicks per day on Google, and all of a sudden you're feeding in 20% of 20% of your clicks are from an external source. That's when we see pretty significant spikes in ranking and total sales, because proportionally you have enough volume to really make an impact.
Absolutely. Makes sense. And I know that you have a hard stop here at 3:30 our time, 12:30 your time. But before we sign off, if you wouldn't mind just giving us kind of a quick overview of what an ideal customer to work with Amped looks like, who's kind of a best fit to use your service.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, it's so much less about Amped. It's so much more about Google Ads. And we're just kind of, we're really a vehicle to help sellers use Google Ads. It's convenient because you can't really use Google Ads without Amped. But the question sellers should be thinking about is, are they in a position to where they should start seriously looking at external traffic? And the way I think about it is there's really two segments that I recommend. If you're a product, or you have some of your products in your catalog are like established, and you're saying, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing on Amazon, but how do I amp this up? And it's never amped, but how do I take this to the next level, right? And now you're thinking, okay, I need to go beyond the walls of Amazon. This is a great, Google Ads can be a great source to layer on top to your marketing strategy, because you can start to do things that not everyone's doing. If you're investing in sponsored ads and doing your product listing optimizations, like you have to be, but what are you doing that your competition is not doing? And that's where Google Ads can be a really great source for new customers, showing your products where your competition might not have the ability to advertise on. And then that's a great option. And that's when you can start to see really good ACOS. 5, 6, 7% ACOS on established products is not that wildly unheard of. And then you get your 10% back. You're really making money. You're making a lot of money, because it's a negative ACOS, right? Or it's a below zero ACOS. It's so good. Then the other side of it, and where I think a lot of our customers see a ton of value, is more those product launches. The products that have less than 100, 200 reviews that you're still building up. You can see good ACOS on these, but the impact usually is on feeding the ranking algorithm to where you're 100, 200 reviews, and you're saying, how do I get more attention on this product? And now if you can bring in the external traffic, You might see a good ACoS for sure. Like we see it a lot, but looking at total sales, that's where we see you just feed the Amazon ranking algorithm. You do what Amazon wants you to do, and then that total sales can really take a nice step up. So that's really where I recommend established products can do really well, but then those newer products that you're looking to get going, kind of get that flywheel kickstarted, it can be super, super impactful on that side. And so that's just from like a Google Ads perspective, because we mentioned on it earlier, but I always like to talk about this is Facebook and social can be really great, but you're pushing your product in front of unsuspecting people. If you have products that people are searching for on Google, they are showing you the intent. They're showing you that they're looking for your product. And now give them the ad at the right time, at the right place for the right price. You have a good chance of converting them. Whereas on social, you're giving the ad at the wrong time, at the wrong place, but it might be a good product, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what we think about on why Google Ads is such a great option for folks looking to kind of go beyond the walls of Amazon.
Fantastic. And if anybody is interested in getting started with Amped, or maybe if they have some questions for you to follow up, where could they find more information?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they go to amped.io, ampd.io, our website's set up. What you can do is you can get started on your 30-day money back guarantee. Join our sessions, our onboarding training sessions. You can learn about Amped. You can learn about Google. We teach you what needs to be done in order to be successful. And at the end of the 30 days, you've implemented some of our strategies. You're not seeing the trajectory that you want to be. Absolutely, like money back, no problem at all. Kind of no questions asked. So we set it up because we really want to help Amazon sellers tap into the power of Google Ads, explore it, get your feet wet, dip your toes in there. And if you're not seeing the results or you're not seeing the trajectory, as long as you've been doing it right by following the instructions and the guidance from our expertise with Google, then maybe it's just not right for you, or not right for your products, or not right for your business at this time. But I highly encourage joining the sessions, taking advantage of that money back guarantee.
And if this helps to sway anybody at all, not that we're in that business, but Amy Weiss did give a glowing review of your service at the Prosper Show. So it's got the Amy Weiss seal of approval. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. I think it's a big topic, and I think everybody learned a lot about, Google Ads. I did for sure. I guess.
Oh, I did too.
It's such a beast. It's so hard to get your head around. So it was definitely very, very informative. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate you having me today. And hopefully your audience will know a little bit more about Google and how and when they should look to incorporate it as they grow their businesses.
I definitely think so. And thank you for everybody who tuned in today. If you guys liked what you heard, be sure to give us a thumbs up, comment with your thoughts, share this episode with your friends, subscribe to the show, and be sure to turn on those notifications. And that way you never miss a conversation with leaders in supply chain and e-commerce like Tyler Gregg with Amped. So thank you again, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye.